Sundgau is a geographical territory in the southern Alsace region, on the eastern edge of France. The name is derived from Alemannic German Sunt-gowe, denoting an Alemannic county in the Old High German period. The principal city and historical capital is Altkirch. The considerably smaller French pays of Sundgau, implemented by the 1999 Loi Voynet, roughly corresponds to the arrondissement of Altkirch, comprising 4 cantons and 112 communes in the south of the larger Sundgau region. Geography. The hilly region is bounded on the south by the Swiss border and the foothills of the Jura, in the east by the valley of the Rhine in the vicinity of Basel, to the north by Mulhouse in the potassium-rich basin of Alsace, and to the west by the Belfort Gap. It comprises parts of the modern department of Rhine and the territory of Belfort in the regions of Alsace and the Franche-Comté. The fertile lower soil has traditionally favored a non-specialized agriculture, with crop production being largely organized into strips. The main crops are maize, wheat and colza. The Ill, the most important river in Alsace, crosses Sundgau from south to north before flowing into the Rhine. Its source is at Winkel in the foothills of the Jura. Other rivers define the region's valleys, such as the Largue, which rises near Courthaven, passes through Dantmarie, and meets the Ill at Ilfrith. In medieval times, monks raised carp in the small valley ponds, and carp frite remains a regional speciality. The images of 2 carp also appear in the coat of arms of Sundgau. Prehistory. Archaeological digs have revealed vestiges of Paleolithic and Neolithic settlements. Traces of Bronze Age cremation pyres have also been found. Excavations at Ilfrith date from the Iron Age. History. In the 1st century BC, the Sequani tribe, which was centered around Besançon, settled in Sundgau. From 70 BC, they waged perpetual warfare with the neighbors, the Aedui, calling upon German mercenaries led by Ariovistus. When the conflict finished, the Germans settled into the region, and the Sequani, to remove them, appealed to the Romans. Julius Caesar defeated Ariovistus in 58 BC near Cerny, and a long domination by the Romans commenced. This ended suddenly in 405, when the Alemanni crossed the Rhine and occupied Sundgau. They, in turn, were followed by the Franks following the victory at the Battle of Tolbiac in 496. Sundgau was incorporated into the Kingdom of Austrasia, and Christianity was introduced under the Merovingians. Francia about 750. The Duchy of Alsace was divided into 2 counties, Nordgau and Sundgau, the latter being mentioned in the Treaty of Mersenne in 870. Historically then, Sundgau coincides with the lands of the Counts of Ferret and Habsburg, excepting the town of Mulhouse and its territories of Ilzach and Modenheim. Geographically, Sundgau denotes a more restricted area comprising the hilly country to the south of Mulhouse and reaching to the valley of Lucelle. During the 9th century and the 10th century, Sundgau was administered by the Left-Frid family. Following the breakup of Charlemagne's empire, the region entered a period of instability, culminating in the emergence of feudalism. From 925 on, the Sundgau belonged to the Duchy of Swabia. It remained a part of Swabia until the duchy disintegrated in the 13th century. Holy Roman Empire in 1125. Frederick, son of Theodoric I of Montbelliard, inherited the south of Alsace and became Count of Ferret. So, from 1125 to 1324, a large part of the Sundgau was administered by the Counts of Ferret. Ulrich III conquered the valley of St. Amaran but died with no male issue. His daughter Jean married Albert II, Duke of Austria in 1324, and the county of Ferrett fell to Austria and was integrated with the other Habsburg possessions in the area. The Landgraviate of Sundgau, the successor of the Carolingian county, had been administered by the Counts of Habsburg since 1135. They had owned the adjacent county of Sundgau even earlier. The Habsburgs enlarged the possessions in the area with numerous acquisitions in the following centuries, until by the mid-14th century almost all of the former Carolingian county was in the possession of Habsburg. The consolidated territories in the area became known simply as the Sundgau, and belonged to the Austrian circle of the empire after 1512. The Habsburgian Sundgau was administered from Ensisheim by a baillion divided into 4 bailiwicks. Enguerrand VII, Lord of Coucy, tried unsuccessfully to claim the Sundgau during the Gugler War of 1375. As of 1500, the Austrian Sundgau encompassed most of the southern Alsace and was bordered by the following states: Imperial City of Colmar, County of Württemberg, the Austrian Breisgau, the Margraviate of Baden, the Imperial City of Basel, the Bishopric of Basel, the County of Württemberg, the Duchy of Lorraine, the Abbacy of Murbach, and the Bishopric of Strasbourg. The Imperial City of Mulhouse formed an enclave surrounded by the Sundgau. The Reformation did not trouble Sundgau, despite the proximity of Bâle and Mulhouse. The country maintained its fidelity to the religion of the Habsburgs, Catholicism. Commencing in 1632, the 30 Years' War broke upon Sundgau, with a violence unprecedented in the history of the region. The Swedish, supported by France, invaded the country, pillaging and burning all in the path. In reaction, the inhabitants of the countryside revolted. But the rebellion was subdued, and the Swedes hanged the ringleaders from roadside trees. From 1634, the Swedes ceded the fortresses to the French, and in 1648 the war ended with the Treaty of Westphalia. The Butcher's Bill was disastrous. Some parts of Sundgau had lost up to 80% of the population. The country became French, and in 1659, the counthood of Ferrett was granted to Cardinal Mazarin. France and Germany. The beginning of the 18th century was a period of prosperity with the development of agriculture and the development of the textile industry. But economic and social conditions disimproved in the second half of the century, with overpowering taxation and occasional famines. In 1789, the repercussions of the French Revolution reached Sundgau, and many conflicts arose in the townships, mainly due to the unpopularity of the ruling classes. In 1790, Sundgau was included into the Département of Rhine, and Altkirch became its principal town. Order was restored during the Consulate and the Empire. Little changed during the 19th century, agriculture remaining the principal economic activity, despite the establishment of industries such as the Gila d'Onni tile works in 1835 and the construction of Xavier Jourdain's looms in Altkirch. As a result of the 1870 war, Sundgau was annexed to Germany. Economic development picked up, and the region opened up to the rest of Alsace for want of trade with France. The battles of the First World War commenced in Sundgau in August 1914. The French blew up the viaduct of Dantmery, and the front stabilized and extended from the Vosges to the Swiss frontier. The population suffered artillery bombardments and, for fear of spying, many were evacuated into those communes untouched by war. Sundgau reverted to France in 1918, but its reintegration posed several problems. Those Alsatians who since 1870 had to speak German now saw themselves obliged to express themselves in French. By way of derogation, German was taught in schools for 3 hours a week. Between the wars, 56% of the population worked in agriculture, 28% in industry and only 7% in services. In the Second World War, after the declaration of war, the communes bordering on the Rhine were evacuated. The German army crossed the river on June 15, 1940. Following the armistice of June 22, Sundgau was once again in German hands. Jews, North Africans and French speakers were expelled to the free zone between it and Vichy France, while school children were forced to speak German and absolutely forbidden to express themselves in French. Communes were renamed, and youngsters enrolled in Hitler Youth from 1942. From then also, men born between 1914 and 1925 were drafted in the Wehrmacht. General Jean de La de Tassenet's troops reached the Sundgau in November 1944, with Sepoys-Libar being the first. As after the First World War, language issues arose. From 1945 to 1984, the use of German in newspapers was restricted to a maximum of 25%. Post-war, there was a period of reconstruction and economic growth. Jean Forestier's Trente Glorieuses, the 30 years of economic growth 1945 to 1973, ended by the first oil crisis, and the number of agricultural workers dropped year by year. More than 35% of the population currently work in services. Organization. Sundgau is an arrondissement and is divided into 4 cantons: Dantmarie, Altkirch, Hersching and Ferret. These run roughly along a north-south axis and consist of 112 communes. These communes are in turn grouped into 8 communities and 1 village for economic and tourism promotion purposes. The community of communes of Port d'Alsace, 33 communes. The community of communes of Alsace and Jura, 24 communes. The community of communes of Ilford, 10 communes. The community of communes of Valley of the Largue, 9 communes. The community of communes of Altkirch, 4 communes. The community of communes of Hersching, 11 communes. The community of communes of Valley of Hunsbach, 12 communes. The community of communes of Illengersbach, 9 communes. Population. The population reached 61,841 inhabitants in 1999, an increase of 8.3%. Thus it paralleled the demographic growth both of Rhine and, more broadly, that of Alsace itself. Altkirch is the most populous of Sundgauian communes, with 5,386 inhabitants. This is followed by Hersching, then Dantmarie. Notably, 70% of the population is spread out among 103 communes of less than 1,000 inhabitants each. Finally, 19.2% of the inhabitants are aged under 15, while 19.3% are over 60. As in the remainder of France, the proportion of over 60s is growing. Economy. Sundgau remains primarily an agricultural region with traditional activities. Important urban centers such as the tri-national conurbation of Bâle, the urbanized area of Belfort-Montbéliard-Sochaux, the Mulhouse conurbation, and nearby and are attractive as providers of goods and services. Qualifications are lower and revenues higher as a result of border area employment and its economic and social impact. Nevertheless, Sundgau remains under-equipped, notably for company startups. Although several enterprises have started during the last 10 years, it is not sufficiently attractive as an employment basin because of the counter-attractions of the nearby conurbations. Transport. Road network. Sundgau is ringed by major roads, such as the A36 motorway between Belfort and Mulhouse, and the A35 toll road. between Mulhouse and Bâle. Nevertheless, the elected representatives agree that the road network is outdated. Other important roadways are the D419 crossing the region from east to west between Belfort and Bâle and passing through Dantmery and Altkirch, and the north-south D432 passing through Ilford, Altkirch, Hershing and Ferret. Several current projects aim at improving the road network and bypassing villages. These include diversions at Retzwiller and Dantmery and the Spischbach-Le Bar and Hochstadt bypasses. Another large project, the extension of the rapid road from Dornach as far as Altkirch, is under discussion. Railway network. The Paris Bail line serves the towns of Dantmery, Altkirch and Ilford. Regional trains are relatively frequent, and useful for Sundgauvians working in Mulhouse-Belfort. Work on a Dijon-Mulhouse line of the TGV Rhine-Rhône is planned to start in 2006. Canal network. The canal from the Rhône to the Rhine crosses Sundgau by Montreuil, Dantmery and Ilford. It has existed since 1824 and was conceived by Freycinet. Nowadays, it is too narrow for large barges and serves mainly for pleasure craft. A large project for the construction of a canal linking the Rhine to the Saône, passing along the Doubs, has been abandoned. Indirectly, it would have linked Central Europe to the Mediterranean without having to ship merchandise through the Straits of Gibraltar. But the anger of agriculturalists and environmentalists influenced the Minister of the Environment to abandon the project in 1998. Tourism. The General Council of Rhine has taken an interest in Sundgau and in developing tourism in the region since 2000. Along the lines of the management of the source of the Iller, the construction of a rest area on the route D419 near Chavannes-sur-l'Étang. Sundgau is a region where the lifestyle permits the development of green tourism. Heritage. Chateau of Ferret, Chateau of Morimont, Chateau of Landskron, Hunsbach Mill, ancient Cistercian Abbey of Lucelle destroyed during the Revolution and rebuilt as a hotel. Romanesque Church of Feldbach, Romanesque Church of Altkirch, Sundgauvian Museum in Altkirch, Herzbach. Notable Sundgauvians: Xavier Jourdain, textile industrialist; Jean-Jacques Henner, painter; Charles Zumstein, farmer, poet, diviner; Dominic Richet, author of Memoirs of the First World War; Effie Acute Elise Volot, sculptor; Daniel Zimmermann, novelist, educator. Bibliography. Claude Stadelman, Le Merveilleux Existe.